Hey, you are along for the ride with Mad Dog and Cole, the crazy Swede, Farrell.
King of the Hammers has nothing to do with contracting.
I decided to fly through the air and live in the sunlight and enjoy life as much as I could, and that's just what I'm doing.
Okay, it's happening. Everybody stay calm. Everybody stay calm. What's the procedure? Stay calm. Wait.
Man, oh man, what a way to start. Those inspiring words from the great Mr. Evil Knievel. Flying through the air, living in the sunlight, and enjoying life. Everybody just take a minute and enjoy life. Rub your bellies after Thanksgiving and be thankful.
Thanksgiving has come and gone, but we are still very thankful to our first responders, the brave men and women of our armed forces. We literally couldn't do this podcast without them. They're the real rock stars. We pretend to be, but they're the ones that matter.
Yes, absolutely. And, special thankfulness for those families of the still MIA and the KIA. Deep respect and thankfulness for those who gave all, for sure. Speaking of giving it all, man, I'm telling you, Kicker Performance Audio, because it goes to 11, right? They are living loud, man. Everything that you need from personal audio, earbuds, Bluetooth earbuds, headphones, Bluetooth speakers, all the way up to the most insane audio that you could possibly need. 15-inch subwoofers, amps, whatever you need. Hit them up, kicker.com, at Kicker Audio on Instagram, or catch them every other Tuesday night at 7:30 Central on their YouTube channel, Kicker Unmasked Live, for their very informative and entertaining live TV show. Of course, Bomber Eyewear, Bomber Safety Eyewear, Bomber Floating Eyewear. Dude, I don't know where I'd be without my bombers. It's like they're permanently affixed to my head. I am hell on glasses, and these things just last and last and last, to the point where I'll wear lenses out before I wear frames out. Find them at bombereyewear.com. Over 40 styles of frames, unbelievable amount of lens colors and combinations, all the way to these ice blue polarized safety lens that I'm wearing in my white frame boogie bombs. Man, just gotta love them. Bombereyewear.com or on Instagram at Bomber Eyewear. Tell them Mad Dog sent you. Of course, our man Cole and the Premix Podcast, MC extraordinaire, event announcer extraordinaire, just unbelievably good behind the mic, and is also incredibly gifted behind the lens of a camera, sharing all his passion for desert racing through the lens of a camera. You need your car shot at the desert race, hit him up, slide into his DMs at Instagram at the Premix Podcast. That's the at symbol, ThePremixPodcast. Hit him up. Keep in mind, if you want to book him for Master of Ceremonies work or event announcement work, he is currently booking 2024. So get on the schedule now because it'll fill up quick. Of course, Kelsey Morrell Film, turning all of this mess that we do into video happiness on our YouTube channel at Mad Dog Media and now on YouTube podcasts. Thank you so much, Kelsey Morrell Film. If you need anything done from shorts to full-blown video editing to TV commercials shot, edited, and produced, hit her up on Instagram at Kelsey Morrell Film. And all our social media help, templates, website help, which is MAddOG'sGarage.com, by the way, MAddOG'sGarage.com. We rely on Hey Keeks. You should too. You need a social media help. You need a website built. You need your website maintained or a cart added to your website, or you need to do a full-blown social media influencer campaign. Yell, Hey Keeks. Find her online, heykeeks.com, or on Instagram at Hey Keeks Marketing. Dude, I am super excited to get episode 63 underway because we have the brains behind the vision, the incredible visionary, Mr. Chuck Foreman. We all know him and love him as Pro Eagle Chuck. Pro Eagle Jacks revolutionized basically the lifting segment of desert racing and side-by-sides. He'll be right here in just a minute. All right, folks, as promised, the brains behind Pro Eagle Jacks, but so much more, as we'll find out here. Chuck, welcome.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's great to have you on. And, you know, a lot of our listeners are very familiar with your product that you designed and developed, and we'll get into that. But, you know, first and foremost, I want to thank you because you have helped me out. You're like my little pocket pit crew, man. I thank you every time I have a problem with the trailer.
I see the pictures that you post often, and
yeah, it hasn't been.
I'm glad they are a lifesaver for you.
Absolutely, man. And that thing just works. I mean, and when I have to dig it out, I just did a tire swap because the tires were wearing out, and I didn't feel like unloading the trailer. All steel frame trailer, big trailer, triple axle. I lifted the whole side of the trailer up with the jack. I don't recommend that because it's definitely over what the jack is rated for. But yeah, no problems. I'm forever grateful for an awesome product, for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah,
we often overload them, and when I travel with Russ from Buggy Whip, and that guy goes through tires like nobody's business, and so it's a good test for us for sure. So I like traveling with them, and it definitely adds that other feature of like, shoot, I get to test out product and see how far I can push it. So
yeah, he's about there may be only like 2 people that I know that have had. Fortunately, I think I'm through mine, but for a while there have had as many issues as I had. And one is Russell, who we're going to have on here upcoming soon. And the other is RJ Anderson.
Oh yeah, RJ runs a product now too. So
yeah, well, he's smart.
Yeah.
So now most of our listeners, well, they know for sure what your product is, what Pro Eagle Jacks is. And a lot of our listeners know you through what you've done with Pro Eagle. But I want to get back to like Chuck, the desert racer, pre-Pro Eagle. Let's go back, because I know you're pretty accomplished desert racer, and I think it's genetics, isn't it? Isn't it family like a hand-me-down trait?
Right. Yeah. So fortunately or unfortunately, whatever, I grew up into the sport. My dad raced ever since before I was born. He worked for a GMC dealer in Anaheim, California, and the owner of the dealer, he actually owned Saddleback Park, and he supplied the NHRA with all of their safety trucks and all that. But he himself raced off-road. And my dad came from, racing anything that had wheels on it. And so he quickly became a favorite to the owner, and joined his team and helped on the crew, and then worked his way up into co-driver, and occasionally helping driving in longer races. And then when he left there, he started his own thing and bought his own car. And so like I said, I was just kind of born into it and brought up in it. And as soon as I was able, actually before I was able to get my driver's license, I had my first race truck and raced in my first race. So that was before the time of trophy carts and all that stuff that for all those kids now that are definitely blessed to have that ability and the chance and opportunity. So I had to wait until I was 16 and bought a Chevy S10 and went and raced that. So I had a good run of success, and we won a couple races with that truck, and bought a full-size Class 8 truck after that and won a championship with it. A guy that my dad had helped along the way, Mike Horner, he ran the Chevrolet ran commercials with them. He bought a Chevy S10, built it, drove it to the Baja 1000, won this class, and then drove it home. So Chevrolet jumped on the opportunity to back that and make commercials about it and posters and whatnot. My dad was on that team, on that crew, and just happened to run into him much, much, much later in life. And he had a Toyota at that time that had gotten stolen, and they found it, recovered it, and it was just a cab and a chassis, and that was it. And he didn't have the funding, the sponsorship to put it back together and go race again. And I said, I have a knack for sponsorship and marketing and all that, and I don't have a truck, and you have a truck and have a need for sponsorship and marketing. So let's work together. And so we formed a partnership and put the truck back together, and went out and won the Baja 1000 that year. And that was the last race of the year before we got the truck finished. And then the following year, we won every single race in the Score Series, went completely undefeated year, and finished every single mile of every race as well. And
holy cow.
Yeah. And then we backed it up with the championship the following year. And I had some marital issues and got divorced that time, and had to step away from desert racing somewhat and moved into short course stuff just to stay closer to home. Changed the budget a little bit, had a relationship with NOS Energy Drink because I worked for Maxxis Tires, and there was just a synergy between that, the two brands. And they wanted to go off-road racing, so put a program together to go short course racing with them. And absolutely sucked at it. I could not transition from making a truck last for 1,000 miles and doing it quickly, but making it last 1,000 miles, to just balls out, pedal to the metal as fast as you can go for 30 minutes. So, my first couple rounds, I had a lot of people that I had common contact with, and a lot of people that were friends with, and that also raced, and they came to me and they said, "Hey, why are you lifting going through the rhythm section?" And I'm like, "Well, because that's what you do." And like, not here. we stay on the gas, mash the gas until the checkered flag flies, and that's it. So I had to change my driving style, and like I said, it just didn't fit me, and went back to desert racing, and bought a Class 10 car and had some mild success with that. And then that's when Pro Eagle started. So I had to step away from all of it to focus on building that product and that brand. And that led us all the way up to where we are today.
Wow. Wow,
Yeah.
I had no idea that you were a multiple Baja 1000 champion.
Yeah, yeah. We've
I've
won
known all
it.
you these known you all these years, and I did not know that. That's
Yeah,
huge.
yeah. Yeah, like I said, I think it was three Baja 1000 wins and
Wow.
I'm sorry, three finishes, 2 wins. So
Yeah. And see,
yeah.
you're talking Cole's language when you're talking about like the Toyota trucks and the S10s and all that
Yeah.
stuff. Cole's an avid desert fan. So
Oh,
um,
nice.
yeah, he's actually transitioned into doing a lot of the photography in the shorter desert races around Barstow, Laughlin, stuff like that.
Yeah, the
So
more
Oh, okay.
series and yeah, a lot closer to home. So hopefully make
Yeah.
it to Baja one day, and hopefully with this guy on camera here. But we'll keep it
Yeah.
local for now.
yeah,
Yeah.
we're entertaining some options. We're trying to figure out a way um, to get in the desert together at some point next year for a race. So,
That'd be cool.
yeah, I think it'd be a lot of fun, and I think it'd be gives people some real insight if you're documenting the whole thing.
Yep.
Um, so we'll see how that goes. But I want to go back to a couple of things. One, what class was it back when your dad was racing, and what kind of truck?
So it was actually buggies at that time. It was a class 9 buggy.
Oh, okay.
That was his first car, and then moved to a class 1 car, um, which is now I think it's class 2 or whatever, but 1500 or whatever they call it. But it was a single seat Chenoweth buggy, and they were running a Corvair motor.
Wow.
Had tons of problems with the Corvair motor
Oh,
trying to make
yeah.
it last in desert racing, and yeah, so I remember that vividly. It was more broke down moments and rescues
Yeah.
in the desert than there was victorious moments. So
Well, I know
yeah,
the Corvair, they had a hell of a time keeping them running on the streets, let alone
yeah, I
out in the
bet. Yep,
desert. So,
yep,
so
yeah,
then um, here comes Chuck, baby Chuck, and you're growing up cutting your teeth in the dirt in the desert, right?
yep, yeah,
And
yeah. So
then
I remember one year getting a dune cycle for Christmas. I'm not sure if you remember what dune cycles were, but
I
so
don't.
it was basically a tri moto, but more of like the 1960s, the raked forks and the front tire stuck way out in front, and like I said, 2 wheels in the rear. And it was my present or my Christmas gift. And my dad ended up riding it more than me. And um, that was my first, off-road vehicle. And from that point, we had the Trimotos, Yamaha Trimotos with, the big giant balloon tire and the
Yep.
no suspension and all that. And but yeah, my first race vehicle was a S10 race truck. So my dad had transitioned from buggies into trucks and stuff, and the truck that I bought was actually one of his old race trucks that he sold, and the guy continued to race it for a couple years and then parked it in his garage, and it just collected dust for probably 6 or 7 years until I scraped up enough money to buy it, and then I raced it, and it was in the stock mini class. So when he raced it, it was a 7 open truck, somewhat unlimited, and they were running 2 shocks per wheel, and getting way crazy with all the stuff, but by the time I got it, it was just a plain Jane stock truck.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
still windshield and working windows and air conditioning and a heater and all that good stuff. And but it was one of McPherson Chevrolet's first trucks, and it was built right off the assembly line to be a race truck. It still had all of the factory stickers underneath the hood that said that it was a test and engineering vehicle and it wasn't meant for street use and all that stuff. So that was very cool. Yeah.
Wow. And
Yeah.
how old were you when you started that?
I was 15 at the time. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I got a summer job at Toys R Us when a junior year in high school. Actually, I think it was a freshman year in high school, and it turned into a full-time job after that. After the summer was over, they said, "Hey, can you stay?" So, and I enjoyed making money, so I stayed and then saved all my paychecks. I was living at home and stuff, and didn't have anything to spend my money on, so other than saving it for a race truck. So.
Nice. And was that the Chevy V6 power or was it
Yeah, so it was a 2.8 V6,
yeah.
monster V6. Had just enough power to get out of its own way.
Yeah, yeah. It's almost better than the four cylinder.
Yep, almost. Almost.
That's awesome. So here you are at 15, and you said you basically entered your first desert race, what, 16 then?
Yeah. So at that time it was Lorana. It was the Rana Desert Racing Series, which then morphed into, what very similar to what the More Desert Series is now.
Okay.
So it was just an enthusiast type series, not a professional series. And it just raced in Barstow, Ridgecrest, Lucerne Valley, stuff like that. So, yeah, so it was just local series. It was easy to get to, and then I still drove that. It was my daily driver as well. So drove it to work, drove it to high school, and then raced it on the weekend. So
Nice.
yeah.
That is awesome. Do you remember the details of that first race?
I do. Yeah, it was raining.
Oh, I hate the rain.
Yeah, growing up, my grandparents and my aunts and uncles and all that stuff all very much participated in my dad's racing efforts. Our crew was 99% family, and then the other people that weren't family might as well have been.
Wow.
And so my grandpa's there and grandpa's there, and aunts and uncles, everybody. My dad drove the first lap, and then we switched, and I drove the second and third lap after that. And we had got some old parts from McPherson Chevrolet, the race team, and they were old torsion bars that they switched out. They swapped out parts every year or every race on their race trucks. And so they just gave me a whole truckload of parts and said, here, these will fit that, so you can have them. They'll be perfect for you. We don't, we're a professional race team and we don't, use them more than once, but they're great for a guy like you. So we had put the torsion bars in there backwards, and so
Oh,
backwards and left to right. So we had way too much spring rate in it. So it bounced like a jackrabbit going through the desert, and we couldn't figure out exactly why until after the race. So, but we made it. I don't even remember what we placed. It was, obviously not first, but, in the top five-ish, in the class. And at that time, it was a pretty big class. It was pretty popular. And we made a lot of advancements and changes after that. So figured out that we had torsion bars backwards and got the correct shocks and all that stuff on there. So
nice. Wow. That's so. Did you pull a win that first year?
Yes, we did get a win the first year. I just don't remember what it was or where it was at. I believe it was in Ridgecrest. Whatever reason, it rained a lot that year, so we had 2 or 3 races in the rain. That was another one. And most of the trucks in the class were Ford Rangers, I-beam Rangers, and they were 2-wheel drives. So me being 4-wheel drive in the mud, it helped out a lot. So that was our advantage in winning our first race was a 4-wheel drive in the mud.
So you were racing a 4-wheel drive back then. So really,
Yeah.
you could say you're the godfather of like the Menzies truck and all these all-wheel drive trophy trucks now. Really, those guys all owe you royalties because it was
Right.
Chuck
Yeah.
that pulled the trigger.
Yeah. With a truck that stock, we needed 4-wheel drive. You come up to some of those hill climbs that, people with bigger horsepower or more wheel travel could make it up in a 2-wheel drive without an issue. Whereas, we had 7 inches of wheel travel in the front. so we had to have 4-wheel drive.
Nice. Less than a Razor 800.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But the UTVs nowadays have more horsepower than we do.
Yeah.
I remember we had to clearance that thing to get to clear 31-inch tall tires. And now people
Wow.
complain that when you buy a UTV off the showroom floor when it has 29s or 30s on it.
Yeah. I know. I just put a new set of GBC parallax on the kicker razor in a 32, and I'm like, it looked really big for about 2 minutes,
Yep.
and now it's like, oh man, those are definitely in line with the look of the rig. So,
Yeah.
and they're 32s, and Cole and I were laughing about that a few episodes ago because when I think it was the one when we had Kusky on, because we were talking about, I worked for Muzzy at the time, and he had this just insanely gnarly Kawasaki Teryx that had virtually a one-off motor, made a like 156 naturally aspirated horsepower in 08. It was like 08 or 09. And it had 25-inch Sandstar paddles on it. And the stupid thing, even with those, and what we run, Cole, probably 5-6 pounds of pressure in them. Car weighed close to 2,000 pounds. And you whack the throttle and the stupid thing would stand up,
Yeah, right.
But 25 was like, oh my God, you're running paddles on a side by side. Now it's like, good Lord. I mean, you see these desert trucks now with what, 40s and King of the Hammers trucks even.
Yeah. I think on a trophy truck, anything smaller than a 39 is pretty bad. You're a back marker if you're running a 39 or smaller.
Wow. Yeah. That's probably half my annual income in tires.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. But so what flipped the switch to go from, was it just that you were having success in the local series, you just decided to try Baja, or is it typical like all of us that it's Baja as a bucket list and I'm going to do it while I'm young? And
yeah, so there was quite a few races in between. I raced that Chevy S10 for a number of years, sold it to a friend in high school, and then bought a Class 8 truck. That truck was not street legal. It was, a full blown actual race truck at that time. And again, that one, when I bought it, had 33s on it. We changed a bunch of stuff and then was running 35s when I raced it. But that one still was running in the local series. And that was just budget reasons. Obviously my dad had raced in Baja with the S10 that I had raced. But for me, doing it with my, working at Toys R Us, paycheck budget, it just wasn't going to cut it. So
understandable.
Yeah, exactly. So we sorry, I've got beeping going on here. So I raced the Class 8 truck for probably another 3 or 4 years before meeting Mike and running the Toyota. He had no interest racing locally. He wanted to run the big stuff, where the big boys are.
Well, that makes sense.
At that time, I was working for Maxxis Tires, and so I was able to obviously get a deal with Maxxis at that time, but they had no interest in local series or anything like that either. So they're like, we want to go race with the big boys. And so that's what we did. So we didn't want to, race local stuff either. I wanted to go and race Mexico and race with the hardcore guys. So that was my first step into that. And, we jumped in with both feet and won our first race out. So
yeah, that's crazy. What year was that?
Yeah. That was 2005. So I raced 2005. That was the first year. And then I raced with him all the way through 2008. So
Wow. With huge success too. huge success.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And like I said, we just kind of, I wouldn't say that, we were hot shit or anything. We just did our homework, and Mike did excellent prep work on the truck, and we had all the right brands and all the right partners involved, and the truck was just, it was perfect. We when we showed up and started racing, there was a guy, I don't know if you've heard of Ted Moncure, but it was the Blue Sea Racing truck, and they had dominated that class for years. And when we started racing, and we caught them by surprise, but they were a factory backed Toyota team, and B.F. Goodrich was heavily involved with it, and American Racing Wheels. And you can still go into a Wahoo's Tacos today and see their posters on the walls. That's how big they were.
Wow.
And like I said, they had Blue Sea behind them, which is a huge marketing company, and great people. But here we are. We show up with Maxxis tires, who nobody had ever heard of before, and a Toyota that people then knew had been found, relocated from its stripped chassis and rebuilt. And they're like, oh, these guys are not going to do anything. And we showed up and shocked everyone.
Nice.
So, and we were running King shocks on it, and we caught the eye of Bilstein shocks, and that was when they were first developing their Blackhawk shocks. And I remember those. Huge body, like a 6 or 7 inch diameter shock, and it was this black special metal and whatever. And they came to us and said, hey, we want to help developing this shock, and can you guys work with us? And we were sure. So that was definitely a key to our success. The truck didn't necessarily work any better than it did with the King shocks. It just worked exactly the same at the finish line after 1,000 miles as it did at the start of the race. The shocks never faded.
Wow.
They never changed. It was always the same truck, no matter how hard you pushed it. So, like I said, we had great partners behind it. So,
yeah,
and an awesome team. We still had all the family and my dad and grandparents and aunts and uncles and all that stuff. And we couldn't go in Mexico. We couldn't go 10 miles without seeing somebody that was there for us. So
that's awesome. And, I was going to say that's so much, I think, of winning Baja. I mean, obviously there's some luck involved because, there's a lot of racers that say they don't believe in luck. I do. I'm kind of superstitious when it comes to racing, but nonetheless, being prepped, and then knowing your equipment and knowing the capabilities of your equipment, not overdriving, to make it, what it's going to take to make it 1,000 miles. I guess basically after the first time you did it, you had it figured out, and obviously figured out really well because you repeated a lot.
Yeah, like I said, I had a lot of practice coming up to it. But going from making a stock Chevy S10 finish a 200-mile race to making a lightly modified Toyota finish a 1,000-mile race, it was a very similar driving style, and it was something I didn't have to change a whole lot of. So,
well, it's I don't know how many of our listeners really follow a lot of Score, hopefully more now than before they started listening, but those are still like, I mean, the Score races are still like Western, man. They're like rowdy town.
Yeah.
All the time, unpredictable. You never know what's going to happen. You never know what's around the next corner. And even more so back then, because I don't think in those days people pre-ran the whole course twice before the race, and they didn't have really GoPros and social media and what is it, the satellite, help me out. Starlink.
Yep.
They barely, I don't know, did you guys even have a sat phone back then?
No, not at all. Yeah, nothing like that at all.
Yeah. So, you know, that was like, I mean, I don't want to discredit the very early days, but that was still like Western hardcore.
Yeah.
Not not to say the guys now are soft. I'm far from it, because their speeds are way higher, especially in the big trucks. Um, and the technology is so far advanced compared to
Yeah.
what you were working with, you know.
Yeah.
And just to have a set of shocks that went 1,000 miles without fade. I mean, that was insane.
Yeah, yeah, I can talk about that now like it's a big deal, but you talk to most of these guys, and it's like, well, so our trucks do that always. And so
Yeah.
it's yeah,
Yeah, it's you know, you start thinking about that, and you start watching some of the videos of articulation and stuff like that. And for I'm engineering type person like you, or crew chief like me, crew chief like Cole, it's like, oh man, that lower those, you know, pivot bolts on the lower arms are taking a beating or whatever. And
hmm
a lot of people don't even think about that stuff, you know. It's
yeah,
like that's all part of prep and being having a appropriate piece of equipment to hit the line.
yeah, definitely.
So
Yeah.
that's crazy. So you went through all that, and obviously you still haven't got the desert racing. All that's not out of your blood, but we're going to kind of jump forward through that to the Pro Eagle Jack thing. And I kind of know the story, but I want to hear it from you. Like, was it, I don't know, did it exactly start because you needed something better for your personal race truck, or?
Yes and no. I mean, I knew that there was a need for it. We had always modified jacks in some way, shape, or form so that they worked for, our off-road vehicles. And whether it's because it was, had more wheel travel than a normal jack could handle, or whether it's because it needed to work in soft sand, or, whatever the case may be, you had to make some modification to the jack to make it work. And once you modified that jack, if you took it back to Craftsman, or the Harbor Freights, or whatever it may be, then they told you to pound sand because you had modified it, and it wasn't the jack that they sold you anymore.
Right.
So nobody was doing that, out of the box. There were some kits available where you could make your own jack, or and some people offered extensions, and some people offered wheels, and some people offered skid plates, and but again, nobody was doing the whole package. I went to work for a company called Austin International in 2000 and I think 10, and we are a jack manufacturer. So we are a supplier for Napa Auto Parts. If you went to Napa and bought their Carlisle brand jack, that's manufactured by us. And Snap-on jacks, they're aluminum jacks. We are one of the manufacturers for Snap-on. So there was an aluminum jack already. They had come to us because we were already supplying jacks to other countries. And it wasn't, that they were buying, their specific jack that they had designed. They came to us and said, can we purchase that jack and put our name on it? So I said, hey, we could make this into something. We could put all these modifications onto the jack and offer it to the market, and took it to Napa and said, hey, let's do this. And they said, no, thank you. It's too small of a market. Off-road isn't where we want to go and specialize in. It's a niche market. It's not our cup of tea. But no, thank you. So we walked out of the meeting, and I told the owner, I'm like, shoot, we should just do it ourselves. And the next day, he normally rolled in about 10 or 11 o'clock, and had his coffee and all that. And I got there at whatever, 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, and he was already there. I'm like, uh-oh, something's wrong.
Uh-oh.
So So I walk in and he's like, hey, come in here, talk to me. Okay. So he's like, hey, do you think that, that's a really good idea? Like we could actually do that and make it ourselves? And well, yeah, sure. Why not? He said, okay, well, let's do it then. If you think it's a good idea and you think that there's a market for it, then let's do it. I'll be the manufacturer. I'll manufacture the product and you do everything else. So so I did everything else. So we sat out and we made cardboard templates and we made, well, probably 6 or 7 different revisions of a jack and all that to find something that would work, that we could mass produce and manufacture. And we started manufacturing it. So, and I, skipped a little bit there, and like we built probably 15 or 20 of them in the beginning and sent them out to friends and family and racers and said, try this, abuse it, throw it around, drop it out of the back of your truck, do whatever you can, run over it, whatever, and give me feedback, so right. I could test it, to the best of my abilities, but putting it out there into the racers' hands was the best thing we ever did. So we got lots of feedback and, try this, do this, move this here, move that there. And we did all those things. And again, that was just Austin and myself, building it in the warehouse, and we'd build another, prototype, and then we'd send it out there, and we build another prototype and send it out there. And we finally got it right. And that's when we went to mass production, and it took a long time. It took a long time for me to get things rolling. I spent a lot of years going to Tacoma Forum meets and, opening my tailgate and putting the jack out there and saying, this is what I've got, and rolled up with a table and didn't even have an easy up canopy, best in the desert races, and said, this is what I got. And finally it took. People started going, well, wait a minute, this isn't a gimmick. It's not a crappy idea, and it's it's something that we can buy, and it's got a 2-year full replacement warranty, and we don't even have to cash in the warranty 99% of the time. So It's just a great product, and it fits our needs. So it didn't necessarily come from my needs per se. It was the off-road industry as a whole.
That makes sense. And, it really, the progression of that, and I laughed when you said you sent the prototypes out to racers, because we all know if you need something broken, there's pretty good chance a desert racer can break it.
Right.
And, it's brilliant to have approached it that way, and developed. So many companies develop something and put it out there and go, this is what you got.
Yeah.
And so to actually, you knew what your market was, or what your potential market was going to be in this case, and put it to that specific market. And, in my opinion, and through my definite testing, it's the best product out there in that market for sure.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, you did your homework, and now it's the coolest thing. So let's talk about the creativity behind the design first, because you did all this yourself. Like this is 100% Sir Charles right here.
Yeah.
On everything. So like how did it go to get to where it is as far as design stuff? Was it like, oh, I want to do it this way, and you jack something up twice the weight it's supposed to hold and it folds up on you, and so you're like, okay, that's not going to work, let's do this? Or even the simple things like what appears simple, the wheels and the skid plate. They're brilliant, dude.
Yeah. So we wanted something that was lightweight, that was easy to put in the back, in and out of the back of the truck, but still be strong enough to hold, the weight that it needed to hold. We started off with, a really good heart of the product already. we were already building a good jack for those people. So it was easy to start there. The other modifications on it, and then as it's grown from there, have been the difficult parts. We've made so many different advancements to the pump that neither of those other companies have adopted because it's too expensive. It adds too much cost to the product. So
Right.
our product, and it started off as being very, very similar. The heart of the product was very similar to what they were getting, where now it's not even close. We're lucky enough now to where we have a hydraulic engineer that's come from the aerospace industry, and where
Wow.
their tolerances are, they're zero. There isn't any room for failure there.
Right.
So she's been awesome for us. So she's taken it, and that's just in the last, I think she's been with us 2 years now. But in the last 2 years, we've gone leaps and bounds. I'm not an engineer. I'm not a hydraulic engineer, designer or anything like that at all, but I just knew what worked and what didn't work, so I could take it apart and went, yeah, this failed, and let's make this better. Let's make this different and whatever. But all the way down to, the breathers, a normal jack, when you throw it into the dirt, the breathers immediately get clogged and the jack starts to malfunction, and people don't know why. It's because they got full of dirt,
Right.
or the oil passageways, there isn't anything that we can do. If we make the breathers bigger, then that means that air can get out and air can get through better, but it also means that it can bring dirt in.
Right.
So making the oil passageways handle being able to travel with dirt in them, those are all things where we're like, well, shoot, the jack isn't designed to do anything other than get outside the garage, and that's it, So, initially we had asked them, a couple of jack designers to help out, and they saw the product that were coming back in and like, why is this all dirty and covered with dirt? So
Yeah.
like, well, because that's where it's being used. And they just were like, yeah, no thanks. Like, this is not my cup of tea, and we're not interested. So it fell back on me and to Austin to figure out what to do to make it work better. And like I said, so a lot of the stuff was just trial and error. We knew that initially the jack was just the traditional style wheels, and we knew that we had to go to the larger wheels so that it moved easier from point A to point B.
Yep.
But like I said in the beginning, finding a wheel that would hold the weight capacity and was light enough and strong enough to do was not easy. And going to different wheel manufacturers, we manufacture the jack, but we don't manufacture the wheels. So finding somebody that was like, well, you wanted to do what?
Yeah.
and would actually develop it for us, it was not an easy task. And it started off to where like, okay, well, try this and try that and try this, and we finally found one that worked, and we put it out there. And I heard everything, oh, I've got wheels like that on my trash can and this and that
Right.
and whatever. Like every negative comment that you can think of, I heard, went through it, and like, okay, well, wait a minute. We know that they're strong enough. We know that they're developed to hold 6,000 pounds plus, but they don't look like it, and rightfully so. It does look like a trash can wheel. What if, and they just stuck out like a sore thumb. Like that's the first thing you saw and you noticed when you saw the jack was the wheels. So why don't we make them black? And then that way it kind of blends in and it's somewhat hidden. You can still see the wheels, but then it looks a little custom, and
Right.
immediately the complaints ceased. It went from, well, those were never going to hold, the weight, to like, oh, wait a minute, this is pretty badass, because it looked like it was a specific wheel at that point designed for a jack, which it was, but it just didn't have that appearance prior to that. So,
Nice.
yeah. And then, we knew that we needed to have mounting systems so you could carry it in the vehicles or the trailers or whatever, and they didn't roll all over the place. And, the different accessories that could lock on and off of there and all that stuff. So, again, it was not that I was a jack expert by any means. It was just, nobody's doing this stuff and nobody's offering this stuff. So why don't we?
Right. Well, and it's
Yeah.
really smart. And on that, dude, I absolutely love, I have a Kratos 3-ton,
Hmm.
which all our listeners are very familiar with because I talk about it often. But what I don't think I've mentioned is I do have the accessory, the carrier that you can
Yep.
wall mount or floor mount.
Yep.
And it's super well thought out because you take the handle out, take it apart, and slide it in its specific grooves in the bottom of the carrier,
Hmm.
drop the jack in, hit pull the Velcro straps tight. And, folks, I don't recommend this, but mine's not even mounted to the floor of my trailer. I mean, I have a spot that I keep it right between my shelf and my generator, that kind of locks it in place,
There you go.
but it doesn't ever go anywhere. Like, even if it wasn't there, it wouldn't move, I don't think. And it's just brilliant because I can lift the whole thing up. And if you have to move it, if you've ever had to move a floor jack anywhere and you try and set it down on something, it rolls away or it
Yep.
won't stay. In the carrier, I pick it up in the carrier, take the carrier outside
Oh,
and lift it out of the carrier outside
there you go.
because it's so much easier. I mean, I'm literally, it's a step and a half from the where I keep it to the door. So around the generator. So, you think Russ is a cluster in his trailer, man. You should see mine. It's an
Yeah.
organized, it's an organized cluster, but no, it's just those little things though that maybe people don't realize, um, you know, that, and I'm sure there's people that buy it because they see it and they want it and it's cool and the extension works and everything locks in great. And I mean, it's so versatile.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and Lauren, I kind of want to jump on your point here. Sorry to
Yeah, go
cut
ahead.
you off, but
No, that's why you're
so
here.
it's so incredible the different figurations that you guys have and the accessories. And it's weird to think about how common it is now that you guys have done it, but to think back just a
Hmm.
few years ago that this stuff wasn't an option, or you had one guy that did the wheels, one guy that did an extension, something like this, and you had to put
Yep.
together this $600 jack with three different people, and then that's no guarantee that the
Correct.
jack would even work.
Yep.
And then I just
Right.
had to laugh right now, Lauren, talking about wall mounting it, because the first time that I saw one of the Pro Eagle jacks mounted vertically, I think I said something to Ryan Edwards, and I said, "Uh-oh, that jack's mounted vertically," and he said, "Yeah, it's not a problem. It's like one of the many things that Pro Eagle does right is you can actually do this, and it's durable and it's versatile." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, these guys have it figured out."
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely one of the things too, going back to in the beginning, we had all of that stuff on the jacks and people were like, oh, you're never going to be able to sell one of those things, for the price you're asking for. I can go down the street and buy one at the local parts store for, $100. And I'm like, okay, but when you go buy that other accessory and you have to take it to your buddy's shop to build you an extension because you don't have, a welder at home and whatever, at the end of the day, you're going to end up spending more than you would on all of the other parts, and with a jack that no longer has a warranty, and it's more expensive than mine. So you could buy mine with a 2-year warranty and save the money, and then you'd see the
Yeah.
same people the following year at, Offroad Expo, whatever it may be. And they're like, yeah, you were right. I've actually gone through 2 of those other jets. I should have just bought one of yours, so
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and
Yeah.
to that point, um, man, the durability is crazy good. And I love, now I follow your social media religiously, and I love the creativity in mounting. Like, these guys are designing, I think I saw a pre-runner before Baja that maybe you had on your social media. It looked like they had designed an actual like pull out sliding tray specifically for the Pro Eagle.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's a lot of that stuff now. Rivian, because they were the first electric vehicle to really push the off-road and overland stuff. They came to us in the very beginning and like, hey, we don't have a jack that'll work in where we're going. And not only the fact is our truck is driving off road, it weighs 2,000 to 3,000 pounds more than any other truck that's driving off road. Can you help us? And we said, absolutely. So
Sure.
they have a slide out drawer system as well. That's right behind the passenger compartment. And they were like, well, let us try this. And can you make something for this? Can you make something for that? And we're like, well, try the off the shelf parts first, and see what
Right.
happens. And our 3-ton jack dropped right into their slide out perfectly, and they were able to bolt it down. And they're like, done. There's nothing else that we need to do for this. It's perfect.
Nice.
And even then, after working with their engineers closely and then finding out, wait a minute, you guys are selling this plastic adapter that sits on top of our jack that has to, because the all electric vehicles have specific jack points, and they use this locator pin to locate where that actual exact jack point is. So that locator pin is just a composite, plastic piece that sat on top of a jack, and then it pushed up into and located, it located where the jack needed to be, and it lifted from there. And we thought, well, why don't we build that product into our extension? You're using the extension anyways, and you're setting that adapter on top of the extension. Why don't we give you a machined part that actually bolts and attaches to our jack so that it goes into there? So you're not just setting this thing in an off-road situation and hoping that it doesn't tip over or whatever. And like, well, could you do that? Like, really? And we're like, yeah, like, well, most people can't do that because, they're like, okay, well, we're just getting this part from somewhere else, and then they're getting it from somewhere else and whatever. And that was the beauty of us being the manufacturer, is like, no, we can do it. And in less than a week, we had a prototype to them. And now we're the Rivian jack. If you go on Rivian forums or to the Rivian events or whatever it is, like they're all using our jack. They have them in all of the service centers. They bought thousands of them, and all of the service centers use them. And so they've actually been a huge help for us, because like anything else, when it gets used and abused, it breaks. So we bring it back. We bring every product back that breaks or that has an issue, and we find out why. So we have guys that are, there's a service center in Texas that's right along the beach. And we found out that they're manufacturing the delivery vehicles for Amazon. And they are about 1,000 pounds heavier than a normal Rivian. Ooh. And the turnaround time needs to be 24 hours on it. And to be able to charge those battery packs, they don't have enough time to charge them in 24 hours. So they're swapping the battery packs every day. So their mechanics go to the place, and swap the battery packs out of their vehicles, but they have to lift it to be able to swap them. So we found out that, a jack that gets used multiple times a day, every day for months, lifting, 7,000 to 8,000 pounds, being a 6,000 pound rated jack, some things start to flex and bend and not work like they're supposed to.
Right. Go figure.
Yeah. So they've been a huge help to us recently, being able to figure out how to make the jack last longer in their conditions, which obviously, everybody else gets the benefits of that, because it's not a jack that we're building special for them. It's just an off the shelf jack. So it's been a huge benefit for us.
Dude, that's awesome. I had no idea about the Rivian thing. Congratulations.
Yeah.
That's huge. And you were talking about all these other jacks, jack kits that people could do and stuff. And I have people that are like, wow, that thing's bitching. I've seen them, but they're expensive. I'm like, how much damage do you think it's going to do to your $75,000 X3 when it falls off your Harbor Freight piece of shit with
Yep.
6 2x6s stacked on top of it.
Right.
Yep.
Yep.
One wheel, one rotor, one hub, one
Yep.
hub bearing. Um, and I don't pull a lot of punches. People are like, oh, well, that's kind of harsh. I said, well, it's going to happen. I've seen
Yeah.
how you jack your stuff up. It's going to happen. I
Yep.
won't take that chance,
Right.
And even like super handy, I just had to, on the kicker razor, I just had to swap out the back half of the roll cage as we updated it for SEMA. And man, I put the jack under because the radius rods or whatever you want to call them go through the plate in the back of the roll cage on a razor. So I put the jack underneath, got it under, got it right up where the tires were basically zero gravity. Took the handle off because it was going to be in my way, and I never once worried about, yeah, put jack stands under it. Of course. Sure. Yeah, I did. Sure. But I never once worried about the jack, and
Yeah.
I was up to my armpits. I know you've done the back half. I know you've done a cage on a razor, and I opted to do it by myself. And I was very grateful that I didn't have to worry about the jack bleeding off or it sliding off because you have that proprietary composite pad, you know, and
Yep.
it just locks everything in. I had
Yeah.
my biggest concern was um, how old is too old to be doing this shit by myself,
Right.
you know? But
Yeah.
but no, I mean, and it's crazy to think, most people, I'm so grateful for you sharing like the entire backstory, because maybe I guarantee you people don't realize that this jack comes from like literally years of desert racing uh and some of the hardest desert racing, score series racing experience, and not just experience but success.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think a lot you could compare the two, like your race career to your jack career, if you will, is, it's preparation, it's doing it right, it's getting it ready, and it's being there, right? So,
Right. Yeah.
I mean, you don't win score championships and multiple Baja 1000s by showing up and having to air your tires before you go through tech or before you
Yeah.
start the race or,
Yeah. Yeah.
whatever. And it's the same thing. I've seen, uh, I've seen some of the videos of a company that has opted to attempt to copy what you're doing
Hmm.
extremely unsuccessfully, but the
Yep.
videos and the soundtracks behind them are very, very humorous, let's say. So
Yeah. That
the
that's the frustrating part for me. And like you just said, there's been so much development and so many years of making it different, making it better, finding out what works and what doesn't. In the beginning, like I said, we slapped some, a skid plate and extension on out of the box jack that we were already building. And in the beginning, we were also hundreds of dollars cheaper. Like, okay, well, those guys are cheaper than you guys are, and it looks the same. And yeah, in the beginning, ours was cheaper too, because we just slapped some wheels on a factory jack and said, let's see what happens.
yeah,
And that's what they've done. And they're using you as an experiment right now.
right.
We went through a year worth of experiments before we even put it out there.
Right.
So now they've painted it and they've tried very, very hard to make it look as close as they can to ours to
Yes.
fool you as a consumer into thinking that it's the same. And it's not. Oh, why is theirs cheaper? I can open it up and tell you 1,000 ways why it's cheaper.
Yeah.
So people don't necessarily always think about or remember the fact that there's so much research and development and time and effort and all that stuff that isn't free. If you
No.
travel away from home, away from your family, and you don't get to see them, how much is that time worth to you?
Yep.
So you have to charge something for that.
For
So
sure.
and not even just the research and development, it's just the product is so much better now than it was then. So that's frustrating.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And in working with Kicker the last few years, I see that where there's companies out there that will say, "Oh, it's just as good as," or whatever, and it looks very similar, but like Kicker's products are all developed, tested, tested right here in the US,
Mhm.
and they're not just picking up the phone and calling in, "I need a speaker this size with this depth to China, and I want you to copy this grill." And
Yeah.
in essence, we see that I've seen that on the audio side, but we've seen it on your side too. But the performance is zero comparable.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
it's
Yes. Yeah,
it's
people are buying them now and using them in their garage and going, "Oh, well, it works just as good." I'm like, okay, well, yeah, in the garage where it's a
yeah,
nice, clean, manicured environment, that it's probably not going to be that huge of a difference. But when you use them like we're abusing them,
yeah,
then the difference becomes evident.
for sure. And the bottom line is, anybody out there listening, don't be stupid, right? Spend the money, because do you really want to go halfway through a tire change in the middle of nowhere? Oh, man, I should have spent the money. By then it's too late, right?
Yep.
By then you're calling a tow truck or whatever. People just spend the money, get the product. Um, it's a product I believe in. This completely unpaid solicitation, but I won't use any other jack, and I think our fans are very familiar with that statement. So
Yeah, yeah. And I don't know when this will air or go live, but I'm going to give your fans and followers an insight that nobody else gets to know yet. Is we have an economically priced jack coming out in the beginning of December. So it'll be for the guy that's not taking it off road, that's not loading it in the back of his truck or Jeep or off road vehicle. He's just using it in the garage. It's a steel jack and a steel pump. It uses all of our same technology and all of the same internal parts, but it's cheaper outside parts. So, it weighs 20 pounds more. And, but, that's not a concern when you're just rolling around on your garage floor.
right,
So for those guys that are like, I want the Pro Eagle quality, I want, that craftsmanship and their technology, but I just don't want to pay that price tag, we have something for you.
nice.
Very
Yeah,
cool.
the audio of this should air, I would guess, by the weekend, somewhere in there.
Awesome.
Yep.
Yeah,
Cole
they're going to
has
get an insight then.
Cole has a real job, so we have to. He does all the production editing on the audio, so
Yeah.
we have to kind of bear with his real job schedule.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, no, that is awesome, and thanks for springing that here. That's
Very
pretty
cool.
cool. Very cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, I mean, how many products can the everyday Joe go out and buy that has over a decade of Baja winning backing to it, put it to use, and carry it around proudly? Not very many products, are
No,
public
we're
available with
right.
that
We're an
kind of
elite group.
background. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
You got you got Fox shocks and BF Goodrich tires and, PCI radios and Rugged and all those other guys, that have that time and technology. But for the most part, it's very, very few.
Yes, absolutely. A select few for sure. So
Yeah.
Chuck, with that, I know I appreciate the fact that you hit an off ramp to do this. I'm
Yeah.
sorry you were stuck in traffic. Hopefully traffic has gotten lighter.
Yeah, I'm sure it is now.
Couple of things. Do you have any partners, anything like that you need to give a shout out to besides hey Jenny?
Yeah, yeah, we've been gifted to have a whole lot of partners, and we actually have some partners that are competing products. We work a lot with Raceline wheels, we work with KMC, we work with Metal FX wheels. We had a really good partnership with a company Mopstar Tires, and we were approached by another tire company. I'll give you another exclusive here, to work on a project for them that will be released at KOH. I can't really say a whole lot more about that. There's big news coming at KOH. One of the things that we've seen with the other brands that are out there is that it's put a little bit more of a divide between our customer base and the guy that just wants to use the garage jack and the guy that wants a quality product. So
right,
we're going to lean into the quality product a little bit more. There won't be any price changes or anything like that coming, but there's a major change coming on the jack that I think people are going to go gaga over for sure. They're going to lose their minds, I think.
PG-13, so
yeah. So that's a big one. And
nice.
And like I said, we've been blessed to work with Honda and, a lot of their development and use their product. And we've been approached by, did I lose you? Oh,
no.
We've been approached by Polaris to work with their factory team.
Very cool.
And work very closely with a lot of their engineers to help them develop product specifically for their vehicles. Their race team uses them exclusively. They just won every race this year in their class.
Yep.
So that's been amazing. The guys from Can-Am came and talked to me at the Sand Sports show and like, man, we love your guys' jacks. We want to have a closer relationship with you. And so we've been blessed to be, the jack of choice on everybody that's hardcore off-road and from everybody from Bryce Menzies to the class 11 guys, and we don't, obviously it's cool when Bryce Menzies says he loves your product but we don't get too caught up in the fact that, we got to remember that guy that's working on his class 11 in his garage and has, no money to make it to the next race, but somehow it does. So
yeah,
we're very blessed in that way.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And it's really heartwarming to hear such great success story. Chuck, I know you and I have had quite a bit of time to talk and over the years and haven't done a couple of King of the Hammers with you. Shared a hotel room, which that's a whole nother story we'll have to get into.
Right.
Sometime we have to get you and Russell on. We'll get Russell on by himself. And then sometime we got to get you both on just to reminisce about road hazards.
Yeah.
But Chuck, thank you for being along for the ride, man. Appreciate it so much. And what a great story.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir.
Hit us up, website, social media, where to get a hold of you, where to order your new Pro Eagle.
Yeah, website is proeagle.com. Instagram is pro_eagle. We'll be at PRI next week and launching the new product there at the end of the week. And awesome. But like I said, you guys get to see it. You knew about it first here.
Yes.
And we're in Torrance, California. You guys can walk in anytime and buy one there too. Love to talk with people and share stories and fit them in the perfect jack and keep showing us love, and we'll keep showing you love.
Yeah, right on, Chuck. Thank you so much. We appreciate you, man. It's really It's crazy. It's the American dream, man. You're
Yeah,
you're
thank
doing
you.
you're doing a great job. And you have a fantastic product. And anybody that wants to say different, I'll fight you right now.
Yeah, right. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, for sure. So, Chuck, thanks again. Appreciate you being on. Um, Shout out to Jenny. Thanks for letting us have a little bit of Chuck's precious time off. And we will talk to you soon, my brother.
All right. Thank you very much, my friend. Thank you, Cole.
Have a great night.
Thank you too.
Well, that's a great story.
Yeah, no, literally. I wasn't kidding when it's weird to think, and I'm the younger guy, but it's weird to think of a time where Pro Eagle didn't exist because I'm thinking about all these monstrosities of all of these. I mean, I worked in a buggy shop, and the things that people would literally wheel in the door to try to sell, it was like, I'd rather sell nothing, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, Pro Eagle, incredible product. And like I said, he's, I should not just Chuck, but their team has taken everything that you used to have to buy separately, and it was a nightmare with no warranty, and putting it all together, and it looks cool. And the logo of Pro Eagle is so iconic that you look cool. So it's a win-win-win.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a great product that works and works and works.
Most
And,
importantly.
you know, the fact that whatever it was, what did he say, like 10 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
They were kicking it out of the back of trophy trucks to test it. Um, Man, there's not, I wasn't kidding. There's not many products out there that you can get that have over a decade of Baja winning development,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, and background. And it's just, I cannot overstate that enough. And I think they make a great product. And I will be Team Pro Eagle forever. Unpaid solicitation right there. Hit them up, proeagle.com. And of course, Team Kicker forever, Kicker Performance Audio. Man, the guys at Kicker, another great American Dream story. And we, I believe, at some point are going to have Mr. Irby on here to share that story and the 50 years of progression since it started. But you can learn more about it at kicker.com or on their Instagram at Kicker Audio. Bomber eyewear, Bomber floating eyewear, Bomber safety eyewear, Bomber super cool eyewear, MAddOG approved, Bomber eyewear. Dude, floating sunglasses that are durable, over 40 styles of frames. I mean, Tommy and the gang just wants to be the blue jeans of sunglasses. He believes that everyone should own at least 10 or 15 pairs. And they're durable. I mean, I'm not going to say openly how many pairs I have, but it's more than 15. But, you know, I switch them out and still go through. I think since in 9 years, I've broken one pair.
Yeah. Well, that just shows the math on that. You're throwing glasses out of the back of trophy trucks and they're not breaking. So how about
Yeah,
that?
definitely true. Definitely true. Of course, our man Cole at the Premix Podcast on Instagram, the at symbol ThePremixPodcast. Find him there. Slide down into his DMs. Don't leave anything dirty, but do book him for a master ceremonies or event announcement, or hook up with him to get some photography done of your race rig at one of your local desert races. He is the shit. Of course, Kelsey Morrell Film, getting all of our videos, working towards our YouTube channel, MAddOG Space Media, and our YouTube podcast, which you'll find in the same place. Kelsey's got it covered. Man, look her up on Instagram at Kelsey Morrell Film. And of course, for all of our website and social media help we need. So grateful for Hey Keeks. We'll find her at heykeeks.com or on Instagram at Heykeeks Marketing. Anything from website building, website maintaining, to full blown multi-$1,000 social media influencer campaigns. Hit her up. Hey Keeks. Dude, what do you got?
Man, I'll just end on this. I think that sadly, and I hope to see it happen again, but I think that Chuck is probably the first and last 15-year-old to save up for a pro stock truck, a pro mini truck. So
you may be right. You may be right. And man, what a story. I mean, the dude cut his teeth in Baja, right?
yep.
And worked at Toys R Us, and RIP Toys R Us, and like bought a race truck when he was 15.
Yeah. I mean, even to have a mini stock at 15 is nuts. So, I mean, shoot, even to have one at 20 is tough. I knew guys who are in their late 20s can barely make it happen. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Good on you, Chuck.
For sure.
Yeah.
That's
cool
awesome.
story.
Very, very cool. Cole, do the speech.
Make sure to rate, review, and subscribe on your favorite streaming platform.
Dude, that's beautiful.
Thank you.
You're so
I have a
smooth.
voice again, so thank you.
Yeah, that's wonderful. With that, man, I'm so grateful that Chuck has offered to help me out. Completely unpaid solicitation. I would use the jack no matter what, because it's good.
Yeah.
With that, I think we should scatter. Mad Dog out.